Welcome back to the podcast. We've got my good friend Brad Groux with us from Digital Meld, and he's going to help us really start to dive into quit being wimps about growing a business. We're going to jump right into it. Brad, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Anthony. I appreciate it.
Brad, take me right into it.
Yeah, so thanks for having me on. I think we were talking before this that basically we were hoping to give people the power and the ambition to go out and do and be bold, right? And to go forth is what I like to say, being a space fan, if you can see my background here. And so I would just like to start out, if you're waiting for permission to build something bold, stop. You already have the tools. Now it's about having your faith in your ability to figure things out. I think is going forward is going to be really cool.
Yeah, but Brad, I got kids, Brad. I can't do it, Brad. Come on, Brad. What are you talking about? I got busy. I got a wife and kids, and I can't leave my job, Brad. What about my income, Brad?
Yeah, so I think the big thing is use these tools like AI and automation and large language models to help streamline some of these through automation, I think is the big thing. Punch above your weight class is what I like to say. Like you have the ability to do that now, and technology is a great equalizer for that.
Well, and that's a part that people aren't getting, right? They keep waiting for this perfect moment to jump in. And every business owner, every entrepreneur will tell us there is no perfect moment. You just got to jump in. And every single entrepreneur I know, when I look over their time, the number one thing they say to me, what they would change is they would have started sooner. Right? Every one of them say that. And if you could hear that, audience, if we can hear that today, that what Brad's talking about is jump in now. If you've got an idea, you're really excited about what you want to do, you got some great insight into something, start doing the process now and start using these tools. So Brad, let's talk about some of those tools that you're using to be able to punch up as you talk about.
Yeah, so I mean, I started a similar podcast as start small, think big. So that's my goal. Is like start with just automating your inbox. That's one thing you can do really, really easily using Power Automate or Make.com or one of those other tools that you can do for a low. Automate your inbox. If you get automate your client relationship management, automate those types of things. Just start really small. Everybody has an invoicing process, right? You deal with invoices and receipts. You can automate that really easily. So the goal is to automate a lot of these easier and menial tasks to free yourself up to do the more meaningful work. And it doesn't matter whether you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur with a team of people, or you're running a small or mid-market company, you can compete with the enterprises of today because you have access to all the same tools that they do, that they utilize every single day. That's the beauty is, again, technology is the great equalizer. Use it.
Yeah. So talk about some of the businesses that you're helping grow using technology. What are some of the cool tricks that they're doing?
So I fell into the construction engineering space. I have some experience working with Texas Department of Transportation here in Texas for their Mobility 35 project as an example. It's a $35 billion, 30-year project. Obviously, a mid-market or small construction company, an engineering company with 70 to 100 people, that's not necessarily something that's relatable to them. But all the tools and all the processes and procedures that I learned on these massive mega projects or program management, they call it, works at the smaller scale for building, small commercial real estate or building a small building. And it's more about like the processes and procedures, the everyday operations of these large businesses. It scales down. It really does. The only thing is the people in the smaller businesses are generally wearing multiple hats, right? Like you're a jack of all trades and not really a master of none. And again, use these tools to help you do that and free up your time to focus on the things that actually matter.
Every time we want to grow an idea, right? But some of the ideas, some of the entrepreneurs that are out there, they always come to me, hey, I've got this idea. What's the idea, right? I got X, right? I want to grow it to be Y, right? And that distance between the two of them, the idea and growing the idea, right? There's a lot of things to solve in there. Oftentimes I talk about it. You got to be willing to walk through some broken glass, right? You got to be willing to walk through that. You don't have this all figured out, that you don't know what you're doing. I mean, remember the first time you sat behind a mic on your podcast?
Yeah, it's a horror show, but you got to do it. You got to take those lumps, right?
Yeah, the first one I did was from my desk. We did it on Zoom. The guy that both of us had terrible cameras. We had terrible audio, but there was two guys. It was actually one of my buddy, Dan Wisk. He was now passed away. Great guy. Dan and I did this podcast. He was just my really close friend. I'm like, hey, you want to do a podcast together? Help me try this thing out. He said, yeah, let's go for it. The two of us knew how to talk together. And we just started literally with a mic and a Zoom account. And we were behind that mic. And from there, we started doing more podcasts with more people. Then we actually created a podcast studio. Then we got some podcast equipment and we would talk to other podcasters and they would teach us, the things that they did. Hey, one guy said, I got the Sony camera, and that's what I use. It's where you get some higher definition. And then one guy's like, hey, you ever tried the Rodecaster, switchboard out there? You really get a much better job with, controlling your mics and getting your mic sound. And all those things started to grow one by one, right? But it didn't start out with, it was perfect. It literally just started out with an idea, which, what's funny about the idea, it started because I was jealous of my wife, that she went out she was going out with her girlfriends one night, and I was sitting at home watching TV, and I was jealous, right? I was jealous she was out, and I thought to myself, what the hell are you being jealous about? Well, you know what it was is I was jealous. I was sitting on the couch doing nothing, and she was out having fun. And I was like, well, what's that about? Right? There's a billion things you could go do today, right? Just like you entrepreneurs, there's a billion things you could go build right now to make a fortune. Stop thinking of the perfect one. Just go get one of them started. That next day I started the podcast, and I took flying lessons. And literally from those two ideas, all kinds of things have sprouted because of them.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, time is the only finite resource we have, right? Woulda, coulda, shoulda. I think we all probably have parts in our lives where we think, I would have done that differently. And you only really know, if you take a swing and you fail, hey, at least you still swung. At least you swung for those fences and you gave it your best effort. And I will say that I started my company about 2 years ago, and we're a B2B technology consulting company focusing on AI and automation. And we've pivoted more times than Dr. J. I think you just have to have faith in your ability to figure things out, and and just know that the beauty is you have the tools, you have the world at your fingertips on your phone right now, and you have all of history's knowledge, historical knowledge at your fingertips. And so my dad told me something when I was a junior in high school. It's the mid 90s, right? So this is pre-internet wave. And he said, son, if anybody ever asks if you know how to do something, say yes, because someone's written a book on it, right? And so back then we had to know the Dewey Decimal System and go to the library and get a book, and but then the internet came along, and then YouTube came along, and now you have ChatGPT and Gemini and Perplexity and Claude and all these other things that can help you, get your ideas off the ground.
So, with that, there's so many new technologies. A lot of us are overwhelmed by it, right? There's a lot of us that are barely understanding how to use ChatGPT. Even those people, I say, bravo to you for trying, right? A lot of people still use, just the infancy stages of it, but at least they're trying, right? I say to people, get in there, no matter what it is, keep lowering the bar on technology to some point of entry, whatever that point of entry is for you and your abilities. Great. Keep lowering the bar till you get there, but jump in, right? Start playing with ChatGPT, right? Start playing with some of these AI tools that are out there. I saw a tool the other day, talking to a guy I'm working on a TV show with, that now that they're doing TV production, they're doing TV style videos on AI now. Right? I can imagine a future where there are no more studios, right? We don't even have to hire actors, right? A place where you can prompt a conversation that will turn into video that's pretty damn dynamic.
Yeah, and I have no doubt there's people within your audience that they're in the corporate world, they're in these large mega companies, and they have learning and development, they have these internal processes and procedures and internal documentation and videos that they produce. Now you don't have to rely on multiple teams to do that or multiple people. You can go ask ChatGPT, is like, hey, I need a script for this internal document, and you point at some of your internal information. And it's the beauty of AI is it's personal to you. The more it learns about you, the better. Like you said, just choose one. Keep it simple, stupid, KISS, right? Just choose one and dive head first, and then train it, about what's important to you and what your tone is. And you'll start reaping those rewards really, really quickly. And I think it is, you can't just put your toe in the water. You got to jump head first.
But isn't that the problem with choose one? When you say choose one, right? Here's the problem. When I was a kid, you went shopping for blue jeans as a boy. You had maybe one type, maybe two types. You had Lee's and you had Levi's, right? Maybe Wranglers or Levi's. Maybe you had a few. Today, if a man tries to go buy blue jeans, there's thousands of pairs of a different style, right? Now that we've got so many options, right? I find a lot of people get this analysis paralysis. Brad, how do I help those people that they're just overthinking it? What's the trick to going from, just choose one?
So, Sam Altman, the founder and CEO of OpenAI, he starts with his day off every day, a notebook and a piece of and a pen. And he does his list of 10 things he's trying to accomplish that day. And he circles the one that he really needs to get done that day in red. And he starts there. And then he utilizes these other tools to help him do that. He can feed that into ChatGPT and is like, here, look at my calendar, look at those things and give me some feedback on how I can do those things. The thing is, you can always pivot. If you choose ChatGPT now and then Google's Gemini comes out with a better one in 2 months, the beauty is you can export your data and then port it back over. Again, that analysis paralysis, I was stuck in that. I took 6 months to start my podcast. I took 10 years to start my business because I was afraid of failure. One of my favorite quotes is from the Batman movie, one of the Batman movies from Christopher Nolan. Is like, why do we fall, Master Bruce? Is like, so we can learn to pick ourselves up. You can quote Rocky or countless other ones. Until you get hit in the mouth, you don't really know how you're going to respond. And I think the beauty of starting your own business is it's your stress. It's not the stressors from your corporate vice presidents or meeting their quarterly quotas. It's your stress. It belongs to you. You own it. You manage it. You're in control of it. And there's really no feeling like that in the world.
Well, it's that there's no better feeling than when you can do that, right? But the fear of starting it, right? I oftentimes watch people and that fear piece, that fear of taking that first step, right? It's almost as if I'm walking into a snake pit, right? It's as fearful as jumping off a building, or there's that first step of, hey, I'm going to go create my own business, right? That first step from it's just too much, right? My brain can't handle all the things I got to do to solve it, right? They overwhelm themselves with just getting started. And the concern I have, the question I really want to do, the thing I really want to affect for them is really when you work with those entrepreneurs, Brad, and you're looking at them and you're saying, stop, you're not trying to boil the whole ocean. Just start with one cup somewhere, right? Just get started. Now, what might that get started be? How do we lower the bar until we get to a place where we can get them to start, right? What's the ability to go, all right, just here, lower to just what is today's red circle to get me started?
Yeah. And so I generally, how I solve problems whenever I go to a company, I start to the people closest to the problem. So if you're trying to solve a problem, you have an idea, go find people who know about that idea. There's meetup.com, there's LinkedIn groups, there's all kinds of things. Get involved, see people face to face. I think that's the beauty of the AI revolution is those face to face meetings, those lunches, those coffee meetups, those things are going to be more and more important and more impactful because people are going to have extra time to do those things now because the menial tasks of capturing notes and recapping your week for a progress report, that stuff's going to be automated. So, but the thing is if you don't get started now, you're going to get left behind because it's going to be you versus someone like you that uses AI. And that's not to scare you. That's just to hopefully empower you and let you know that if I could do this, you can do this. My 72-year-old mother, she uses AI. She does our books for my company using AI and QuickBooks and those things. So you can do it. You just have to have faith in your ability to figure things out, like I said. And the most important thing whenever as a hiring manager, I don't care what technologies you know. I don't care what your school past is. I want to know what problems you've solved. I want to know how you tackle a problem. I want to know I can't teach you to have faith in your ability to figure things out. I can't teach you that. That's something you have to grow internally and take that leap.
As you started Digital Meld, talk about that. Where was it? What started you? Where were you at when you started it? How'd you get the big, bold move to move forward, to take that first step?
Yeah, so I come from the corporate IT world. I got my job. I was going to be an engineer in high school and college, and then this thing Y2K happened, right? Anybody who's old enough will remember that. And I got a job making $20 an hour updating computers for Y2K and dropped out of school and kind of never looked back. I lucked into a job at NASA right after that, and then jumped around oil and gas, and then got into consulting, spent 5 years at Microsoft. And there it gave me a great understanding. I was in over 100 Fortune 500 companies while I was a consultant at Microsoft. And I got to see these companies, a lot of them are just flying by the seat of their pants, and they're just still super successful. And it's the largest companies you can ever think of. Those are the type of companies I'm talking about. And it's because they had a bold leader at the top, or they have a bold team, or they've created something that people just have to have, right? And so about 2 years ago, I decided I can help people. I can do these sorts of things. And so I just took the leap. And again, luckily I had a decent career, so I was able to build up savings. I didn't have to take an outside investment and those things. And so I stayed at the thought leader within this organization. If you don't have the ability to do that, just do whatever you need to do, adapt, overcome, find people like-minded. I have a co-founder that's really, really brilliant, that can keep me in check as well. You need that, to me, I need that counterbalance specifically to challenge me, because that's, iron sharpens iron, as they say.
It does seem like once you get the boldness to go do it, the people and the money that you need to run it show up, right? It does feel like once you start, oftentimes I equate it to, whenever you're in a problem, your car breaks down, if you get out there and start pushing, all of a sudden there's dozens of people that want to jump out of the car and help you. But if you're sitting in your car waiting for someone to help, you could be there forever. Nobody wants to get out of the car and help. But once you start, right, that feeling of once you started, the right partner showed up, the right people showed up, the client showed up. It isn't always perfect or easy, and you find out, learn a lot through it. But that once you start, right, at least that's the feeling I had. Once I started, all those things kind of worked out. And I don't know, it's been 28 years now of owning this company, and it's been fun watching the transition and all of the things that we've become, who we've become to lead the company. Is kind of my favorite experience that we have now. I think once you get past those first stages of just grow, making money, getting started, right? All that stuff's great, but who you get to become to grow past where you are in those later years, how you continue to grow. It feels like that's a really fun part about growing a business, is that it gives you a chance to grow yourself.
No, definitely. And gone are the days of getting your college degree and spending 30 years at a company and retiring. That's just, we're in a continuous knowledge improvement cycle. That's just the way the world moves too quickly. The amount of knowledge we have access to moves too quickly. And that's just the reality. You can put your head in the sand and act like that's not the reality, but it truthfully is. But one of the greatest books I ever read was, it's called Nuts. It's about Herb Keller, the founder of Southwest Airlines. Southwest, I don't agree with some of the changes they've fallen victim to corporate investment, but how it started is a fantastic story. Like, he took on the Braniff Airlines and the Pan Ams and all those, and he started it, and he was bold, and he said, I'm going to do this. And he had wrestling matches and did really crazy and zany things. And those who think outside the box and that's the problem, is corporate America gets complacent. Right? We just do. Like, they're big behemoth ships that take a long time to steer. And as a small mid-market business, you have the ability to be far more nimble and act more quickly. You don't have to worry about like Sarbanes-Oxley or other SEC compliance and things for publicly traded companies. So you have the ability. It's all there. People do it every year. I compare SpaceX and Boeing, right? Like, people lasted at SpaceX for 10 or 15 years, and now they're landing rockets on boats and then catching them with chopsticks. It's really one of those things.
Come on, Boeing couldn't do that in another 25 years. The thought that there are a billion ideas out there to be had, right? I just notice a lot of us feel like we get stagnant, right? That creative one of us, the one inside of us that's the creator, the one that inside of us that's really creative, gets stuck in, these small ideas, right? Fear tends to close things off. It does feel like as we get big, bold, and badass, right, ideas start to flow. People start getting into deal flow. People ask me, how do you get into deal flow? I'm like, well, you got to take one bold move at a time. It may just be lower the bar to get something going, right? And once you get one thing going, then another thing will go, and then another thing will go. And where it ends up, you have no idea, but you got to get started somewhere, right? Lower the bar to get something started in your business or idea or that thing that you're ready to go do. Right? That part or piece you're ready to do. Now keep lowering the bar to get something going. And then what you don't realize is all of a sudden you end up somewhere you didn't expect to end up. We wouldn't have known that. You could not have started there. Rarely do I end up where I thought I was going to end up when I started.
Yeah. There's the idea that, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. Like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. That's from changing within your current organization or building your own, startup and starting. You have to be able to pivot. Like I said, I started this company as a software and solutions company. And then within 2 months, we were a consulting company, because that's where the market kind of led me. Like, I had someone say, we need your help. And I'm like, well, okay, I guess this is where we're going. And that doesn't mean I've abandoned that original idea. The beauty is like, now that I'm a consulting company, I have that revenue to help me feed into my ideas. And so I think as long as you're malleable, right? I think the trying to fit inside of a box or a square peg or a round hole is I think the problem everybody gets stuck in. The beauty with technology is like the world, nobody knows what's going to happen over the next 5 or 10 years. We just don't. It's anybody who says they're an AI expert or they know what's going to happen, they're selling snake oil at the end of the day. So they're all trying to figure it out. And so just know that they're all faking it till you make it, and you can too.
What do you think the biggest changes are going to be coming at us?
I think the biggest changes are, again, there's going to be people who utilize AI, and then there's people who don't. And the people who don't utilize AI to boost their efficiency are going to get left behind. But I think it's going to take time because most businesses don't have their data where it needs to be to utilize AI. And again, this is great for mid-market small businesses, as you can take those steps to lay that foundation to build great things upon much quicker than those big behemoth ships can. So that's, again, you have the ability to be able to prepare yourself for the boom that's going to come in the next 3 to 5 years. Like they say, AGI or artificial general intelligence is 2 to 5 years. I think it's probably 10 years away because of the power and our chipset constraints. But like either way, it's coming. And so just prepare yourself now. The big thing is make yourself indispensable. And the only way you do that is through learning and trial and error and, 10,000 hours, right? That's become an expert in something, 10,000 hours, put in the sweat equity. There's really no shortcut to the sweat equity. Ideas are a dime a dozen, but the people who see those ideas to fruition are the really, really, that's what, separates the wheat from the chaff.
It's interesting when you say that. It's actually people that do, right? The cemetery is full of great ideas, right? That never get I can see that in myself. I can see that in times where you get these ideas and you're like, it's just too hard to do. And, I've kind of created some practices for myself that say, all right, look, it's time to take a bold step. And what I notice when I'm ready for that is when I'm bored in life, right? Or when I start feeling a little bit lackadaisical, or I start feeling like, I'm not feeling fulfilled. I always feel like that's a good signal that it's time to take another big, bold step, right? And that's a good time for me to go take something on. And as soon as I start that fear kicks in. Yep, for sure it's going to kick in. It always does, right? And as you take another bold step, the other thing that happens, the excitement kicks in. Right, the other side of, right on the other side of scaring the crap out of yourself is the most magical stuff that happens in life. Right, I take a big bold badass step, right, scare myself, right, but I always feel like on the other side of that becomes this wonderful feeling of being, just that exhilaration of, like you talked about, it's mine to win, mine to lose, mine to create, right?
Yeah, for sure. Anybody think about, you can use the sports analogies, like anybody who puts that sweat equity in to become a world champion or to, set a world record, there's no better feeling, that euphoria they get whenever they reach that. But they didn't get there overnight, right? It took years. It took months. It took days. I think they wake up every morning, they go through the paces, they do the work. You can utilize all the tools now to help expedite that process faster. What would normally take you 2 or 3 years, you get down to 6 to 12 months. And that's just the truth. But that doesn't mean that you don't. The biggest thing is seeing it through. I'm someone with ADHD, so my ideas are a dime a dozen. It's me. Am I going to have the fortitude to stick through any of those ideas? And that's where I have to I have to make it a point. It's like, no, you're seeing this through. You're 90% through. Don't go off, well, squirrel, next best thing. You're like, see it through. Even if it stinks, at least you saw it through and you said, I built that. You brought up the Hollywood thing. The beauty is, just think of all the people who have become millionaires and created new things since the iPhone came along. Like, all the independent filmmakers who do amazing things that Hollywood would have never thought of. There's just great things that are being done. And that was just one example where technology let the little guy punch above his weight class. And now with AI, it's going to get easier and easier and easier for you to let your ideas come to fruition. Again, if you have an idea, go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I have an idea, and I have 4 hours a week, and help me plan this out. It's how I can see this to fruition over the next 12 months. And it'll give you a rough, it'll be 80 to 90% accurate. It'll give you that rough estimate of what it takes. And just follow the steps and keep refining it.
When you talk about Hollywood, I filmed the whole TV show on all handhelds, GoPros and cell phones, right? I called we just changed the name for Walk the Path. It's called Walk the Path now. It went from family style to Walk the Path. And it's about me taking my family around the world, doing these big adventures. And we filmed it all of it on handhelds, right? And at the time, everybody's like, no way, you can't do it. I'm like, 100% GoPros, iPhones, and drones. That's 100% of what we did. Nothing that you had to put on your shoulder. They're all just handheld devices. And what's been fun about it is since the advent of the TV show, since we started the TV show, right, AI's kicked in. Now we can do all of this post work with AI, right? And now they're coming back to me, and the editors and the production team are all working on doing that stuff, better than ever before. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And just, having this podcast, my podcast, like it's helped streamline my operations from the editing side to the generating guests, just feedback, like having a pre-meeting with someone and recording it and saying, hey, what are some great questions I can ask this person, pointing it to their LinkedIn and getting more insights. That's the beauty. It's something that you probably would have done anyways, but you would have taken 2 to 4 hours to do that. Now you can take 10 or 15 minutes, and that frees you up to focus on those big ideas, on seeing things through, on going through those steps. And I think hopefully people are learning from this, like just think of something that you do every day that takes 5 minutes of your day that you wish you could automate. Start there. Because the thing is, you want to build that groundswell, right? You want to get that ball rolling. And the only way you do that is get those easy wins. Give yourself that pat on the back. See how that feels good. The endorphin hit, like, oh, I accomplished that. And then just keep building and building and building. Still have those big grand ideas, but just know you're not going to get, like, SpaceX isn't going to get to Mars overnight. They're going to have to blow up a few rockets to get there.
Well, I noticed all the space stuff behind you. Are you on that first trip if you got invited?
I definitely would be. I think humans are at our best whenever we're reaching for the stars. Take all the other crazy things going on in the world today and think back at all the times whenever we looked up. I was a child of the 80s, or I was a child whenever the Challenger explosion happened, and being in Houston right next to the astronaut village, that really hit me. And then Halley's Comet was that same year. The Texas sesquicentennial, that's our 150-year anniversary of Texas. It was 86 was a similar year for me. And it's because we were all looking up at that time. We were all looking and dreaming for bigger things. And I think if we focused on those bigger problems, we're better off as a species. And so my goal is to help spread the worth, the knowledge of how AI can help people do that as well, because it really can. There's no reason that a solopreneur can't shock the world with their great ideas.
Well, Brad, I got to tell you, it's a lot of fun having you on the show. The work that you're doing to help entrepreneurs grow. If people want to get a hold of you, come check out your podcast, where's the best place for them to come do that?
Yeah, so I'm Brad Groux, BradGroux, at Brad Groux, literally everywhere. I'm the only Brad Groux in the world, too, so I'm very easy to find. Our podcast is Start Small, Think Big. It's on all the favorite podcast platforms. It's on YouTube and Spotify. It's on video. But LinkedIn, just look me up on LinkedIn. It's probably the easiest place to go, and I'm always posting about things.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm grateful for the time I get to spend with you. I'll make sure to put all that stuff down below. Folks, let's go check out Brad's podcast and, make sure we support our guests that are come on here. Brad, thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for what you're doing as well. So I love, we say we're creating a cult of AI, jokingly, obviously, but I think don't be afraid of it. Technology's coming, and it's going to help us.
Brad, thanks for being on. Hey, audience members, last week we had another amazing week. We broke 27,000 subscribers on YouTube. Another amazing breakthrough with the podcast and the work that we're doing. So grateful for all you. But we noticed that a lot of you got to the end of the podcast last week, and you were not subscribers. If you guys could take a second and like and subscribe now, it means the world of difference to Alyssa in the background and Joe in the background, all the team that put this podcast together and get us amazing guests like Brad. If you could do that right now, I would be so grateful. And as always, thanks for listening.